Hi, I'm Burnett here with another Tai Chi tip. Today's tip is going to be about how to turn your body without twisting your knees. And one of the most basic ways to work on this is with a very standard exercise. I've seen it done at dance classes and yoga classes and all kinds of stuff. And honestly, I hardly ever see it done correctly. When I say correctly, I mean correctly done in a way that's not harmful to your body. There's lots of different ways to do things that I might not agree with or I might not like. But when I say something's wrong or incorrect, I mean that it will hurt your body. Like no exercise physiologist or doctor or anyone who knows about the body would say that's a good thing to do. So, and that's the simple exercise that you see people doing of swinging their arms around like this. I've seen Tai Chi videos where people are doing it like this and they're saying, move your waist, power it from the waist, make the waist do it from the waist. And that's, again, incorrect. When you power things with your waist muscles in here, the root of that power needs to be nearby. So if I power it from my waist, I have to root it in my pelvis. And the pelvis is just not a very solid root. It's sitting on two ball socket joints. And so what happens is when you power something from the waist, you see my knees moving around and twisting? See, that's what happens because this isn't a very good root. In the Tai Chi classics, it says the movements are rooted in the feet. So the feet are the root. And then the nearby power, because the power and the root are always connected, is the legs. So the power comes from your legs, the root is your feet. The waist merely directs that power where it's going to go, and the arms do the expressing. So if the arms are doing the powering, or if the waist is doing the powering, the lower body, the real root and the real power end up suffering. And mostly it's the knees end up twisting. So here's how to do it in a way that won't twist your knees. Start with the root. So your feet are wider than your shoulders, parallel. You want to sit with your weight 50-50, and your knees aren't going out over your toes like this. When you sink, you want to sit into here. So you see the angle of my thighs changing, not so much like that, but like this. So my feet are flat, parallel, a little wider than my shoulders. I'm sitting into my legs a little bit of space here. I'm not caving in like that. A little bit of a crease here. This crease is important. I don't want this flat forward. I want that back down like that. Lower back dropped a little bit, upper body lifted a little bit, arms relaxed at your sides. So now I've got my root. So now I'm going to start with the power. And by the power, I mean I'm just going to shift my weight from one leg to the other. Like so. Now when I get to my right, or your left, I'm going to let my hip come out just a little bit so that my leg is lined up with my foot. If I come here like that, so it's not lined up, when I do my turn, I'm likely to have the knee come in like that. So I want to push my weight over to the side and let my hip bump over a little bit. Almost like I was standing in a doorway and I wanted to tap my hip against the door frame on each side. So when you do that, when you get to one side or the other, it should be fairly easy to just pick this foot up, because my weight's really centered over that leg. And when I get here, same thing. It should be fairly easy to pick that foot up. If I go part way, like here, I can't pick that foot up. Not for long. But if I get my weight all the way over it, good. So don't overdo it. Don't stick it way out like that. But just back and forth with that little slide of the hips. So that's the root, and this is the power. Now the waist is above that. The waist is not the hips. Hips are a bony framework down here. The waist is soft tissue here. So when you start to turn the waist, think of turning your rib cage or your ribs like that. So here I'm just going to push and let my ribs turn. And then I'm going to amplify that a little bit by swinging the arms. So notice the shape down below. When I do this without using the waist, when I add the waist, it doesn't change much down there, because that doesn't change. If this starts to change down below when I start swinging and doing this, then that means you're doing something wrong because the knees are twisting. So solid feet, powering from the legs, soft waist, and the arms are swinging like this. Now, my weight is going the same direction as my front hand. So I'm not doing this. This is kind of backwards. That's okay, you can do that, but it's a little different. This one, it's there. My weight's there. My weight's there. So what will happen very often when people do this is that they'll turn and watch that back knee. See? I push and I end up turning my hips, and my knee ends up turning inwards. So a good rule of thumb is my elbow's moving backwards, the opposite knee pushes out a little bit. So if my right elbow, or your left, is moving backwards, this knee wants to come in. So I push it out a little bit to compensate. This hip wants to come back, so I want to keep that hip right where it was. So I have to concentrate on two things. This leg staying solid and straight, and this one not caving in. Some people naturally do this, and they really have to work on countering that and really working on this action to keep that there. But most people, by far the majority, the other leg will want to come in. So when I'm doing the twist back and forth, if my right elbow goes back, my left knee pushes out a little bit. If my left elbow goes back, my right knee pushes out a little bit. And that way I'm able to turn my waist and not turn my hips, because there's a subtle compensating action going on. The more I turn, the more this knee wants to come in. The more I have to use these external rotators to just keep it out a little bit. But once that becomes an instinct, you know, you do it slow at first, but once it becomes an instinct and you do it a little faster, I can really turn quite a bit without twisting in the knees. And when I stop turning, this is still the same, just back and forth. So what a lot of people do is they start to barely move in the middle at all like this, and everything's coming from up here. And you can see my knees start to twist when I do that. So I don't want that twisting. I want that space. Like I'm sitting on a horse, and the horse keeps my knees from going towards each other. So that's one way to turn without twisting your knees. Compensate by taking the knee that wants to twist and moving it there, and turning your waist more than you turn your hips, okay? The other option is that when and you see this a lot with Tai Chi, you know, say I'm doing a Tai Chi movement, and this knee, because I'm turning this way, this knee comes in, like that. So if you're going to leave the foot there and not turn at all, then you have to do this kind of action. Again, this elbow's moving, so this hip is moving out a little bit, or this leg is moving out a little bit to counter that. In most styles of Tai Chi, there's some kind of turning in to face this way after your movement. So if your hip is going to turn, or your hip and your waist is going to turn, your knee is going to twist, you can either compensate and not turn the knee at all, or you can let the knee turn but your foot turns with it. And that's the key. It's not a foot movement that I'm doing with my foot. I'm simply lightening up that foot and allowing it to turn with my turn, so that it ends up still in a line here. So what you have to do there is separate your push from your turn. So I'm going to push my weight, and when my weight is mostly forward, then my turn is going to take over and the toe comes in. So just to review your choices, you have three choices when you turn. One is that when you turn, your feet aren't going to move and your knees aren't going to move. They're going to stay right where they are, with or without a weight shift. We did it with a weight shift, but we can also do it without a weight shift. The other option is that when your hips turn, your knee turns, and when your knee turns, your foot turns. That's safe too, because they're turning together. The option that's not safe is the foot does not move, but the knee does. And when you see people doing this kind of stuff in martial arts videos and stuff, some people are adept at doing this in a way that doesn't damage their knees too much, but over time it's really bad for your knees. But the main reason to do it is it's ungrounded and it has no power. Like if I'm going to issue power and my leg is like this, there's really not much I can do. Whereas if I'm lined up, boom, you know, the power is there and the structure is here to take that. It's much, much better for issuing energy and power. Even if you're just pushing a car or catching something that's falling over or keeping someone from going out into traffic or any kind of daily life applications, if you're issuing any power with your body, you want to have alignment there. It's true whether you're a basketball player, a football player, throwing a baseball, playing tennis, ping pong, it doesn't matter what it is. If you're powering it from your waist and twisting your knees, you are headed for injury. So keep that space there. Either turn the foot and knee together, or don't turn either. Those are your options. This one, not a good option. Okay, so thanks very much. Sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel and check out my website, geneburnett.com, for music videos and more Tai Chi tips.